Welcome back to Glastonbury Designs and the 1978 Subaru Brat project. In this episode of this build, we're going to go ahead and add some ports and prep for engine detail. We're going to add a few parts to the engine. We're also going to address a couple of things in the engine bay. We're going to go ahead and add an ignition coil for the spark plug system, and we're also going to add a wiper motor. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and looked at some reference photos, and along that lower leading edge of the engine there's a little tube that runs, and I'm building that, and that's what sends the oil over to the oil filter. We're going to add an oil filter after this piece. I do run into a couple of issues with trying to get it glued on, but ultimately we can stay with it and we get the part glued on. It's not, like I've said in my past videos, it's not a perfect representation of what the real car looks like. It's just a basic version to the best of my build abilities of how I interpret this car. So what ends up happening here is one of those little control arms that come out of the side of the transmission there, I end up breaking off. You see me kind of fiddling with it a little bit. It's becoming loose as I'm working on this front part of the engine, and at some point I ultimately have to stop and super glue it on. I don't remember what part of the video that happens in, but that is a hiccup that we run into. Ultimately it was fixed and it worked out fine. If you look at the back portion of the engine block right there before the transmission starts, you probably saw a larger hole drilled out. What that's accomplishing is an attachment port for radiator hose. I'm not quite sure that's where it goes, but in the reference photos the radiator hose comes off from the right hand side of the radiator and runs back toward the back edge of the car, somewhere in there, if I'm viewing them correctly. If I'm not, someone wants to leave me a comment and knows more about these vehicles, that's fine, I'm always open to that. What we're attaching here is a feeder tube, or a feeder hose, for that port that we made on the front of the engine, and then we're going to go ahead and try to attach on oil filter for this vehicle. Yeah, that don't look too bad. We'll get that bent down around, kind of like that photo just disappeared. Get that all attached. Now, what we are doing now is actually attaching the oil filter. And the thicker solder that you see over there by the base of the lamp, that was much harder to cut than I thought, and harder to work with. In the future, what I'm going to end up doing is I will sand off the basic shape of how I want parts to look that I make out of the solder, and then try to delicately cut them. It is a good product to work with. It does help with definition. However, it's a little bit of a struggle to cut it and have it maintain its shape. As always, I do apologize about the light washing out some of the detail of the project. Unfortunately, I need the extra light and I need the magnification because the parts are too small for me to see well. There we have it. Pretty happy with how that's coming out. And what you can see right there is the bottom hole. That's where I'm going to try to attach the representation of the radiator hose from the left-hand side of the engine, or sorry, the left-hand side of the radiator. This car was one of the first vehicles that I picked to try to highly detail. It may have been an error in choice because the parts are so small. With the reference photos that I look at, my current build technique, it's been quite a challenge for me to get things correct. That's the reason I'm just putting them roughly where they would go for the representation of the build. I keep saying car. I know this is a little truck, but it's built on a car platform. That's the reason for that, I guess. Plus, it's such a small vehicle, it just feels like a car to me. Now, one of the things that I've showed in the past videos is I'm pretty deep into the art realm. I like the paint, I like the woodworking. I've actually showed a couple of my paintings. The bootleg GTO is photographed in front of a painting of mine. Plus I offered a painting in another video. So one of the things that I'm planning to do, unless I hear otherwise in the comments, is this seems like a camper type vehicle to me, like an outdoors or a woodsy type vehicle. And I think it would be fun to have a story outline segment of my builds. And current concept idea for me for this vehicle would be a camping type adventure, maybe with some hand illustrated drawings of this vehicle in that type of a setting. If anyone has any input on this, just leave me a comment in the comment section below. I'm having a tough time getting the tweezers to cooperate here. This is the portion where we're going ahead and we're adding in the wiper motor. We're going to add the ignition coil. And that'll conclude out this video. It's only an 11-minute video, but I've spent probably close to 2 hours working on this car at this point. I've had enough, so it's time to put it away and wait for another day. I appreciate all the support the channel's getting, all of the subscriptions. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Leave the video a thumbs up if you like the video, and leave me a comment on any tips or advice you might have for my build techniques, any way that you might think that I can improve. I appreciate everybody that's taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate all the comments. I do try to get back to everybody. And until we see each other again, everybody out there be safe, everybody be blessed. Thank you for watching.